Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL to get 5% off of your sale. And then also by Coalesce Apparel, where you can get really cool t-shirts and stuff, and use the code CASUALMAGIC to get 10% off your sale. And by Archidect, a deck hosting website that doesn't really sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them. And now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of magic together. My name is Shivam, Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Archidect, Cool Stuff Inc., and Coalesce Apparel and Design. Buy things from them so that they continue to support me. That's how these sponsorships work. I love those people. I love working with them. It's a good time for everybody. Today, I have a really interesting podcast because for the first time in a minute, somebody came to me and said, "Hey, we should do something." And I was like, "Yes, we should." Because I retweet this dude's art on Twitter all the time, and it's just super vibrant, hella poppy, and like not weirdly, but like insanely outside of the standard style of magic, but it makes me really happy to look at. So I've decided to invite him over because he's doing a cool Kickstarter and because I want to talk Commander with somebody. So please welcome Schmandrew art. Your name is Andrew, but
yes,
I see why Schmandrew did up. You got to be different.
Yeah, there are a lot of Andrew Thompsons in art and design, and all the good names for social media were taken. So Schmandrew art it is.
Well, I mean, it pops and it stands out just like you do. I think like when we met for the first time at Gen Con, you were wearing like a bright pink ass suit. And like your hair is like this lavendery pink thing, and I'm like, dude, you are definitely not the black shirts in the sea of black shirts that everybody else at Gen Con is.
Yep, yeah. You caught me on a very special day because Friday of Gen Con is the art show, and they do awards, and I like to dress up for it and go a little extra, and so I got a little extra. But I got this pink suit off of like one of those targeted Instagram ads, and they know me way too well. And then I got it tailored, and I only break it out at conventions that have like a fancy art show or something like that.
It is amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I guess we should talk about your art a bit. First off, like your art is vibrantly poppy. It's like all sorts of, I mean, how do I it if I was going to describe it, it's like pinks and purples and blues and feels very much like it's in motion. Like everything I've seen you draw, even like your random flowers and crap, just feel like they're always kind of vibrantly like dancing around on the piece of paper that it's on. And I know because I first ran into you because like you would post like tokens or random art things online, and as a Commander player, I love me some tokens, so I'm just like always interested in seeing. And yours just looks so not wacky, but vibrant. Vibrant is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. So I like to refer to my style as fantasy pop because I started out in the realm of like pop art and alternate movie posters with like galleries like Gallery 1988, Gallery Nucleus, all out in California. And all that stuff is like really bright, vibrant colors, really cool design work, like dynamic shapes, that kind of thing. And then when I started getting into selling my work at conventions, I kind of naturally progressed into into the fantasy art genre. But I brought all those like pop art sensibilities with it.
It's like pop art. Because when I think pop art, I think of things like Warhol and like the kind of vibrantly colored prints and stuff from the, I don't know, 60s and 70s. But it's just so wild because it's so dynamic. You know what it feels like to me? And this might be a reference that dates me as well. It feels like if somebody took Jet Set Radio from the Dreamcast and hit pause on it at any given time, and you got this kind of vibrant graffiti look of just like fluid colors and motions that you got in like early 2000s era, like Japanese video games. That's kind of like the vibe I'm getting from it, which is just, it's really cool.
Thanks.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned early 2000s Japanese like video games because I love anime and like Naruto, Gundam Wing, Dragon Ball Z, all those shows in the early 2000s definitely influenced my artwork.
I appreciate you making a concession to my age and saying that Dragon Ball was early 2000s, even though it was like
Well, when it
1985.
was on Toonami.
Oh, infants.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was watching Dragon Ball in like 1994, 95 when it was getting Hong Kong dubbed tapes that my friend would bring with no subtitles or Cantonese subtitles, which is super helpful to me. Um, I watch a lot of Dragon Ball in languages I don't understand. I've actually seen Dragon Ball Z fully in 42 languages.
Wow.
Well, not fully back to front because like there's a
Yeah.
lot of boring
There
episodes,
is a
but
lot of
I've
episodes.
seen at least 10 episodes in every dub they ever did.
That's
Because I
cool.
had a moment in college where I decided this is the thing I needed to do. Um, but so right now, and let's just get this part out of the way because this is ostensibly one of the reasons that I'm super excited to have you here is that you're right now in the middle of doing a Kickstarter for your really cool looking like hoodie and long sleeve shirt.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind because like I only know you as an artist and as like, you know, like not to downplay you, but I know you as like a Magic fan artist. And
Mhm.
so like when you're like, I'm doing a Kickstarter, I'm like, cool, it's going to be like tokens or something, the way like, an Aaron Miller would do or something. And you're like,
Yeah.
I'm selling hoodies. I'm like, what the hell do you mean hoodies? Where do you come? How do you decide you're going to sell hoodies?
So it kind of all goes back to 2013. I just graduated college and I got a job at Reebok doing apparel graphic design. And so I worked on their running team and I did a bunch of stuff for running apparel from I think spring summer 2015 to fall winter 2015. And that was kind of my first taste of kind of doing apparel work and I loved it and I loved like thinking about fashion more. And then over the years, as I started doing freelance and doing my own work, I started to incorporate that into, my my outfit at conventions, as you saw at Gen Con. And it was kind of a goofy thing I did at first as almost a joke, like, oh yeah, my artwork is colorful, so I'm colorful. And then after I did it for a while, I was like, oh, I really enjoy this. Like this is just genuinely fun. And it's turned into a thing that I just love buying colorful clothing and
Yeah, but
shoes
I
and
can buy colorful clothing. I can't make colorful clothing. How do you like did you go to school to learn how to do clothes?
so when it comes to the actual construction, I don't know any of that. I just did a sketch and sent it to the manufacturer and was like, this is what I want. I want the sleeves to be this color, hood to be this color.
I'm
And I
disappointed. In this era of bespoke, clothier ateliers and things, you should be out there, hand picking cotton bulbs that are specifically the right shade of vibrant pink
Do you
that
know
you
how I
need.
picked my colors for those hoodies?
Do they give you a sheet of paper and you say that one?
They sent me photos of the fabric in very badly lit rooms. And I had to make informed decisions based on how I know light affects color and pick the right colors. And thankfully, it worked out.
I mean, it is wild though, because like your things are definitely like that hoodie's got that bright green pocket in the front, which
Mhm,
feels like it if you're not looking at, like, how it's all put together, it definitely feels a little haphazardly like, "Oh, this is, like, almost child's clothing,"
mhm.
in the way of, like, the multicoloredness of the sleeve versus the body versus the pocket. But as one big piece with the art piece on the back, it looks so sick.
Yeah,
Like,
I that hoodie, it's my favorite.
I
It's my
mean,
absolute favorite.
the fact that I got to see like, I I'll be honest with you, I wasn't sold until you showed me the actual pieces at Gen Con, and then I was like, "Holy crap, this looks sick."
Yeah.
Like, this looks really, really cool. Um So yeah, you should support his Kickstarter. It's super cool. Uh, you can find it on the Twitters and on my Twitter and everything. We can talk about that. But that out of the way, like there's your
Mhm.
1 minute plug.
Time to
Um,
talk about magic.
yeah, let's talk about magic. But actually though, like you decided you wanted to do a hoodie and a long sleeve t-shirt. Why not like a normal t-shirt?
Cause I love long sleeve t-shirts, and
There.
I've been obsessed with a friend of mine, they're also an artist named Sooty Bear, and they do a ton of apparel, and I'm obsessed with all the sleeve graphics that they do on their long sleeves and, like, sweatshirts and stuff, and so I kinda wanted to give it a shot with my artwork.
I mean, dude, the long sleeve sweatshirt actually the long I don't know, what do you call it? T-shirt, sweatshirt, whatever.
Yeah.
That one is the one that I actually like a lot. Like, I
Oh,
think that one looks
oh yeah.
sick. Um, but let's talk about why I actually brought you here, which is the fact that you made a snake token once, which is the coolest snake I've ever seen. And I was like one of the things I was so stoked to actually see you at Gen Con was be able to actually go and buy your damn token packet finally in person because it's just so cool.
Thanks.
Um, so how'd you get into Magic and what do you play?
I got into Magic after playing Yu-Gi-Oh for a couple years way back in the day. And it was all because of my neighborhood friend group
Mm,
because we would hang out in the summer and, play games, video games, card games, all that. And a new kid entered our group one year and his older brother played Magic, and so he taught us how to play Magic, and there were exactly 5 of us. So we each had
mm.
a color, and mine was red, and I went for dragons, and that started my obsession with dragons and Magic because now I have like 4 across wide binders full of dragons. So many
You
dragons.
must have been so happy when Baldur's Gate came out with like 300 more dragons in it.
I was I was excited, but also a little disappointed because I had to buy more binders to fit them in. Like I physically ran out of room in the
You
2
and me
binders I
both,
had.
man. And especially since they gave us the new teamer legend who is like
Mhm.
Miriam, who is basically everybody's new favorite dragon lord. This card is gotta
Busted.
like this card is gotta be the dumbest card I've ever seen. Just as a random aside to you, the audience, since I haven't really talked about Baldur's Gate on here. A 6/6 for 3 in teamer. Why does it have ward? Why does this
That's
card
always
need
the one I
ward?
forget too. I
And
go
it's the
to
one that always
target it and
gets
it's
me.
like, "Oh yeah, that's word." Or
God
shoot.
damn it. God. And then, like, whenever another non-token dragon enters this battlefield, create a token that's a copy of it.
Yeah,
Even if it's a legend, it makes it a non-legend copy. That is the dumbest line of text. So deeply unnecessary.
yeah,
Nobody needs 2 friggin' Niv Mizzets in play.
yeah. Or 2 Udvar Hellkites,
Or 2 freaking,
Scourge of
any
Alkas.
dragons. Any dragons.
Yeah.
Inferno mount of the whatever, or freaking old Gnawbones. Sure, let's get
Oh,
2 old
old
Gnawbones.
Gnawbone. Oh,
It's
it's
so
so
stupid.
gross.
Oh, it's so gross. This card, it just gives me heart palpitations. It's like I wanted to build a dragon. Like I've been trying to build this dragon deck for a million years. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, I'll build a Miriam deck. And then like right after it came out, I went to like 2 or 3 different like events and everybody's got Miriam decks and they're all just smacking me in the face. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is so bad.
A buddy of mine made it, and I had thought about making it as well, and I was like, "Ah, I'll let him do it. I'll just slot it in my Dragon deck because I've
Mm.
been working on a foiled out Dragon deck for several years now."
Oh, that's can you imagine putting Dragon out and then just copying Dragon and having 2 Dragons? Like, what is that
Just
about?
draw, like, 10 cards when you attack with 5 dragons, no big deal.
Just
Drop
say,
out 2
"Yeah, sure,
permanents for
NVD, let's get
free.
some Dragons."
Probably more dragons that also clone and
That's
get copies
so
of.
disgusting, so disgusting.
Yeah.
Um, so how did you find EDH then?
I started before it was Commander and it was still EDH. Some buddies of mine in my local game store at the time, we had been playing what we called High Five, which was 250 Highlander, and you had to have 5 colors. So you just had a fat pack box just of a deck. And
Jeez.
you just had your deck in there, and you spent the first like 6 turns of the games just playing mana rocks, tutoring for lands, and then finally the game started after turn 6. And I
The
forget
way
who
every good EDH game should.
exactly. That's why I like dragons. And eventually somebody introduced this thing called EDH to the group. And my first EDH deck was Oros the Avenger because I opened a pack foil at the future site. Was it future site?
It wasn't Planar
No,
Chaos?
Player Chaos, yeah, at the Player Chaos pre-release in Indianapolis, like, downtown, and that was, like, this big deal where I was like, "Oh my god, I pulled this foil dragon," and that was my commander.
Man, Oros, I haven't thought about that guy in like 100. That was one of the first like um Mardu colored like legends
Yeah.
ever, almost, I want to say. There might have been, like, 1 or 2 before that, but there weren't many, and that was the one that was, like, white-centered, right? Like,
Yeah, it if it dealt damage, you could pay a white and 2 and hit all non-white creatures for 3 damage.
gee, that's that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, like, in certain matchups, it was great, but in other ones, it was terrible.
Well, I mean, yeah, because if you're playing against white weenies and they're like, "Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
spend that 3," and you're like, "Oh, boo." And you don't even have, like, a sleight of mind to change the color. Not that anybody's playing sleight of mind in their EDHX, more people really should. Or not sleight of mind, was it, magical hack? No, magical hack changed the land types, sleight of mind changed the colors. Because we all remember our alpha rares because we're old. Um, but yeah, dude, I love dragon decks. Dragon decks make me very happy.
Yeah.
Because as a longtime D&D player, the reason I play Magic at all is because somebody threw a lightning bolt at a dragon, and I needed to know what was going on, and that was the coolest thing. No, it was a fireball. Somebody
Oh,
threw a fireball at a Shivan dragon, and I was like, I need to know what's happening, and I need to be a part of
nice.
this. Um, so what decks are you running right now?
Ooh, my favorite deck right now is a Alesha Sliver deck.
What?
So, Alesha brings back 2 power creatures from the graveyard, and most of the slivers are power 2 or less. And you don't get access to the real good busted ones, so it's not, like, too scary for the table.
Yeah, because you got only the Mardu slivers, so there's not
Yeah.
like a ton of the crazy nutty ones. But I don't know. There was like a red white sliver that just kept, but it's just Alesha is such a card that you see with very specific people doing like reanimator type decks or whatever.
Mhm.
The idea of putting slivers to it, which is such a limitation on slivers, is so fascinating. Like, how
There's
did
so many slivers still. Like, even in those
there's
3
so many
colors,
slivers?
there's too many.
Yeah, I guess so. And you probably get like you don't get muscle sliver, but you get like the white one that gives +1/+1, and
Yeah.
there are a lot of there are a lot of slivers. There were like 4 sets of slivers, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
And people don't realize, like, every time it's like, "Oh, yeah, I've got a fair sliver deck." I'm like, "No, you don't." You there's, like you could play just, like, 4 of the weakest possible sliver, and that's still 4x the ability of whatever that thing is doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's gross and gets out of hand instantaneously.
Yeah. I've
Slivers was, like, one of the first decks I wanted to build, and I just
Yes.
I I I played it once, I saw somebody play it, and I was like, "Oh, I see how exactly how this is gonna go."
Mhm.
And then I was like, "Every game is gonna be exactly like this." And it was also, like, just not fun to get steamrolled by slivers.
Yeah.
It's like
The
playing against allies, right? It's like, "Oh, no. This is gonna end
Exactly.
badly."
Like, I've always loved the design of the slivers, not the human ones, I don't like those that much, I like the old school, like, 1 arm, looks like half of Scyther type of slivers.
The human ones, I don't love them. Nobody loves them, nobody should love them, but they're not terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I think they got way more unnecessary hate than they probably deserved.
Mhm.
Like, they're not great. Like, I'll be honest with you, they're not great, but I wish that WotC had done, like, a halfway,
Mhm.
like, some kind of, like, show me the evolution from here to there so that people buy it more,
Yeah.
like, some of the slivers kind of had this, like, Bone Scythe sliver looked sort of like it felt like the original slivers and kinda had this, like, "Oh, I can see where they're coming from the old sliver to the new one." But then they
Exactly,
had, like,
yeah.
the one that looked like the Predator, and I was like, "This is not a sliver.
I think that
This
one
is."
is that one Thorncaster?
I
The
think it's actually predatory sliver.
Oh, okay. That one. That's funny, yeah.
It's got, like, long stringy hair, and it just looks awful.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it's like, uh, Sliver is one of the decks where it's like, I wouldn't feel good building it, but I get it, and I
yeah,
understand, and I respect it.
yeah.
Like, it's fun. It's fun as hell. I mean, I'm not against a good tribe. Um, can I ask you, because I feel like I wanna 'cause I'm looking right now, I found your packet of tokens that I bought from you at Gen Con,
Mhm.
and they're all gorgeous and vibrant. So you're an artist, and I feel like if we're here, I should talk to you about your artwork because your artwork is cool, and people can just like buy your tokens and stuff from your website, I think, right?
Yes.
Yes. Um, so why did you decide you wanted to try making tokens? How did you get into like doing art for Magic like this?
So, Everything that I sell at conventions and
Mm.
everything that I offer
Yeah, like, what
online.
do you sell at an anime con? Is it just, like, sort of the same kind of, like, pop art canvases and things?
Yeah, I still bring the same stuff. I don't have enough work to be able to, like, rotate everything out,
Sure.
and at, like, an anime con, my work still speaks to anime fans because it has that red thread of being influenced by anime and everything.
Yes. I mean, it definitely fits that same aesthetic.
Yeah. And over the years of doing my own personal work and selling it at shows, I've actually found that I do better connecting with people and selling my work when I have an attachment to it and I
Mm.
have like there's like a story to it and I am passionate about it versus me being like, "Oh yeah, I love Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess." Like I don't have as much enthusiasm and passion for it. Whereas if it's my own work and it's something that I actually genuinely have passion for, it's a lot easier to connect with people.
That said, I would love to see what your version of a Link from, like, Breath of the Wild looks like.
I
That would
I
be sick.
so I did do a, Twilight Princess illustration back in 2016, I think, and that for a long time was, like, my bestseller everywhere, and then when I started doing personal work and telling the story behind the personal work, like, that connected with people a lot better than being like, "Oh, yeah, I like The Legend of Zelda, and this is why I did Twilight Princess this way."
Do you do your art digitally or, with, like, physical materials?
It's a majority digital process. I do occasionally do traditional stuff. Like when you came by my booth, there was a flower painting, and that
I
one was
really loved
traditional.
that painting. It was so cool.
Thanks. That
I
one
mean,
was so much
yeah.
fun to paint.
I mean, it's hard for it's very rare for me to see somebody using the exact same shade of green that I had in my childhood bedroom, but that was the background of that painting, and that's why I was like, "Oh, I need this in my life." It's so
The
amazing.
the best part about that color is I did not mix it. It just came straight out of a
Hell
thing
yeah,
of
it did.
paint, just like
It
that.
is San Jose Sharks teal, that's what that is. Um, but yeah, so, like, obviously you're an artist.
Mhm.
There's nothing else you can do with your life. Look at this is gorgeous. Um, so why did you decide to start doing, like, fan art for Magic stuff? Or, like,
Uh
tokens or whatever?
So part of it came from just playing Magic and, liking playmats growing up, and so
Mm,
that's how I first started doing it was playmats, and then I ramped up from there, like, I had teamed up with my local game store here, and he helped me foot the bill on production of playmats at first because I wasn't sure if I could actually afford it, and it was really pricey through this one vendor, and then as, like, I kind of grew and gained some confidence, I was able to just purchase them on my own. And then that led to being like, okay, well, what else do I want to offer? Like, it has to be something that I would use that I would personally buy. And tokens made sense because I could kind of take all of my artwork that I'd done and maybe zoom in on certain spots and kind of, crop that, make that into a warrior, crop that, make that into a zombie.
that's fair. That yeah, because 'cause I'm looking at this because some of these tokens actually remind like, I can see exactly because having gone through and looked at, like, all your artwork, I can see where you would have cut out, like, of a picture, "Oh, yeah, this segment of this thing looks exactly like what a good snake token would look like." And that totally makes sense to me. So, I'm just curious, like, when you're gonna get, like, your bees or your insects or, all the Magic has a lot of stupid tokens.
Yeah,
Like,
like, there's so many. I
"Where's
don't
my
know
blood
how
and
some
clues
people
and
keep up with
foods?"
all of them.
I mean, you've seen RK Post. He comes to the show with, like, 3 gigantic cases full of every possible token you could imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier to pack that and bring it to a show than it is playmats, so he's probably
Yeah.
the smarter one.
Yeah, your booth was way full, man. Like, you had a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's it's getting to the point where I'm gonna have to start discontinuing a couple prints.
I I am regretful that I didn't get that awesome dragon, playmat that you had because that just looks so cool.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it's always weird when I've got somebody I like their stuff on here because then it's all the conversation always ends up being like, "Wow, so you're cool," and you're like, "Yeah, I am. I am."
I mean, I feel similarly, like, being here live for the intro was pretty cool.
So, okay, well, what what would you wanna do in Magic? Because I know you got to do one of the alternate covers for the comic books, which is sweet unto itself. Like the Boom comics look really, really cool. And you had this awesome picture. It was like you did a Johnny or something, right? Like jumping
Yeah.
from the ceiling.
Yeah, I did a Johnny, and they kinda let me pick what planeswalker out of the white planeswalkers that they had,
You
and
didn't
it
feel like Teo was gonna speak to you.
no, well, I don't think Teo was an option. I think it was more
Thank
the
God for
popular ones, like
that. More of the
Gideon
good
and those
ones.
ones, yeah. And I
Oh
I
man.
joked with them at first, I was like, "Oh, I can't get a red planeswalker."
I want to see your Sarkin, not gonna lie. That would be amazing.
Sargon would be dope.
With that
I
fire hands.
Yeah. I did get to play around with Chandra for, an official Magic art show that was at Gallery 1988 back in 2018, and that was super fun to do that project.
So, what was it like though? Like, did you get to? Did they come to you, or did you solicit them? How does that
I
even work?
I had been working with that gallery since
No, I mean
2015.
for the comic
Oh,
book,
for the
rather.
comic book? Uh, I know somebody who has a published book at Boom, and he
Mm,
recommended me for the Magic comic as soon as he heard that they were gonna start doing
that's
that.
sweet.
Yeah, it was I was very thankful and thanked him profusely and was like, "I owe you a drink next time I see you at a convention."
When you get that email, is that not the coolest thing? You're like, "Hey, we would like you to draw a plane talker," and you're
Yeah.
like, "Yes, yes, I would."
Yeah, I was like, it's one of those conflicts where as an artist, I'm like, "Oh, man, like, I really wanna get paid really well," and comic book work doesn't pay very well, but
Sure doesn't.
Magic came to me and I was like, "Yeah, fine, I'll do it." Like,
Look,
I'll ink an original, sell that, there's enough Magic collectors that they'll buy it.
I didn't even think to ask you, but it's probably been so old now. You probably sold it a long time ago.
I sold it last year at Gen Con.
Oh, boo!
Yeah,
Because that Johnny looks sick. It's
thanks.
so cool. What would you wanna draw? If, like, Watty came to you today and said, "Hey, you get to have your own secret lair."
I would love to do any sort of dragon. I would love to do any sort of kill spell because I feel like I could get really fun with, like, the lines and the explosions and, like, maybe magical blasts and laser beams and stuff. Um,
So that means we need to have you do your own version of Crux of Fate is what you're saying.
oh, that would be dope.
A
Actually, I
dragon kill
almost
spell?
I almost did a Crux of Fate kind of interpretation for the Magic art show because
Oh
I
my
submitted
god.
2 sketches, and one of them I'll have to send it to you after this, but one of them was, Nicol Bolas and Ugin, like, falling together, and they're
Oh,
all
that would be
wrapped
so
up,
cool.
and it was in those, like, crazy bright colors, like pinks and
Yes.
everything, but they picked the Chandra, they wanted that one.
Well, I mean, that one looks sick too, so I can't really complain. You should, retweet that so I can, put it up and show it to people because I wanna, because that looks really cool, man. It looks really cool. But I would love to see, like, your version of a Goldspan dragon or
Ooh,
your version of,
that would be cool.
the dragon pair from Battle Bond, the
Oh,
White
that
Knight
would
and
be
the
really
Red
fun to
Dragon.
do, actually.
Like, you need to get into the proxy game, man, because I would love to see your altars. Like, I think that would be amazing.
So
Oh,
I
yeah, don't
do
you do altar sleeves?
Yeah, I do have some stuff up on altar sleeves. My one rule when it comes to altar sleeves, though, is I don't touch, like, named characters because I don't want to make anybody at Wizards upset with me, so I don't
Fair.
do any proxies or alternate arts of, like, legendary creatures or planeswalkers.
That's that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, like, I would love to do, like, an Dragon or, like, some of those, but there's part of me that's like, "Don't do it, Andrew, like, just wait, you'll get hired eventually."
Well, I mean, look, you did Udvara Hellkite. That's like okay, that's not a named character, but it's
Yeah,
still cool.
yeah.
And your Swords to Plowshares is like one of my favorites there is.
I
It's so good.
I love that one, so this is me going into the nerdy, like, design
Yes, give
illustration
us that.
brain.
That's what we're here for.
So my favorite part about that altar is that if you notice, I cropped out most of the name, so all it really says is swords because
Yeah.
every Magic player abbreviates it to swords. I'll swords that. And when I did that, I was like, "Oh, this is so good." Like
Well,
no one's gonna appreciate this but me.
the thing I love about this art, so it's this look it looks sort of like the soldier kind of with the sword in their hand that's kind of planting it downwards. And when you look at it, it looks almost like this soldier is bending underneath the, like, name title of the card and, like, putting their head in front of it and then swinging the sword down and putting it in front of the text box, so it feels like they're almost climbing out of the card, which is so sick.
Thanks.
It's so, so sick. And, like, you did this version of Cultivate, it's got this hand shadowing over the text box, which almost feels like calls back to the original Cultivate hand
Mhm.
thing, which is just I don't it's super weird. The original Cultivate art with the hand kind of, having a good time with the ground there is not my favorite.
I don't think I'll
But,
ever look at it the same now that you've pointed that out.
I mean, it's let's just say they have a really, really great relationship with the planet. Um, but yeah, so oh man, your hero's downfall also looks good. How come you only did one sword though? You gotta do all of them.
Yeah, I need to go in there and do it. Most of it is just I don't like how much time it takes to Photoshop and make the altar sleeves.
Yeah, but if you're gonna give me like one sleeve, you need to give if there's 10 swords, man. You gotta
I mean,
you
that
gotta
sword would work on pretty much all of them as long as it's the same printing.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, because like the thing about altar sleeves that's cool is that they're literally just printed onto the inner sleeve and they
Mhm.
take the facet of whatever card is underneath it. So you could put a soul ring under there if you really wanted to. It would look weird,
Yeah.
but didn't you do a soul ring for Chase?
Yeah, yeah, that was actually the first altar sleeve and kind of what got me into making altar sleeves was Chase came to me and they wanted to commission me to do like an altar sleeve for their Patreon. And we threw out a couple ideas and I was like, I feel like Soul Ring is the way to go because it's
It's
so many
soul ring.
people use it, it's Soul Ring. And plus, how cool would it be to have you on the card like accessing the power that Soul Ring gives you?
See, now I want one of those for me.
We can make it happen. It was a really fun project. I had been a little burnt out leading into that assignment, and when I started it, I really enjoyed it and just had a blast working on it.
what what do you prefer doing? Do you prefer to draw like still images or not still images, but like do you prefer to draw fantasy from your head or do you prefer to use models and things?
So it's kind of a mix of both. I do use a lot of reference.
Mm.
So I'll either take reference photos myself, which can look hilarious if you saw the behind the scenes of the reference photos.
Looking at artist reference photos is always hilarious because the fact that they're not there for what the image is going to look like. They're there for like lighting
Yep.
or for like posing and stuff. So
Yep,
you always see like the
foreshortening on the
artist is
hand.
yeah, you see the artist's friends just wearing random scrub clothes, but standing in a weird way because a shadow just falls on their cheek in this
Yep.
exact way, and I need it. Don't move for the next hour and a half, you know. And it's always so weird because you see these guys dressed up like I need you to look like a girl now, so just put these kind of shapes into your clothing so that the silhouette is right. And
Yeah, and the liquefy tool for that helps a lot.
what is that?
It's a the liquefy tool, you can kind of, like, warp an image a little bit, and
Oh,
so
right,
some
right, right.
artists will they'll take reference photos of themselves, and then it'll be for, like, a woman in an illustration, and they'll actually use the liquefy tool and warp their own body to, like, get the proportions more, like, accurate, and then they'll use that because they just need it for, like you said, the lighting for, like, the face.
Yeah. I mean, because it was wild. Like at Gen Con, I got to sit there and watch all the artists who were there do they were doing a live painting of
Mhm.
Olivia dressed up like I don't know, she was in cosplay as I think Liliana.
Oh,
And
nice.
the Tyler
Walpole?
Walpole had brought these lights that he'd set up.
Mhm.
And all of the artists were sitting at different angles, so there are like 10 of them sitting in front of her in like this semicircle, and each of them was staring at her from a different angle, and you could see it reflected on their canvas how like her face is kind of rotating through the phases of it, and the
Oh,
lighting would change because the fact that they're looking at it from a different angle, and I was like,
yeah.
as somebody who is not at all talented in arts, that was one of those things that's just really fascinating to see what the actual impact of having a pose and the lighting would do. But like, how do you come up with, like, let's say, like, I'm looking at this token here. You got this soldier dude
Mhm.
who's got sword pointing down. I know in the full art, it's standing over like this zombie body that's stabbing, but that is easy to think about. Like, okay, a body is stabbing another body. how do you decide you want to colorize it? Like your style is like we've been talking about, is very pop art, very
Mhm.
glowy, very fancy. Like, when do you conceptualize where the colors are going to go?
So it kind of evolves throughout the course of the illustration. I'll have an idea of a color scheme at the beginning and I'll start with that, but it inevitably
Oh, so you start with
evolves.
like the idea of a palette from like, I want this to be purples and yellows and whatever.
Yeah, so that specific example of the warrior with the sword, that one's called that's from an illustration called Banishment. And that started out as a study for a local art show that was for the ballet school here. And my friend at the time a friend of mine at the time worked there, and so that's how I got into that show, and I found this really cool shot of a dancer with their arms over their head, and they were
Mm.
making this really cool motion, and I was like, "Oh, you could almost put a sword in their hands." And so I did the painting for the show, and then a few weeks later, I was like, "You know what? I think I'm gonna revisit this and kind of add in a sword and expand the piece and make it a full-blown illustration." And when I started to do that, my initial plan was to have just another warrior on the ground with a shield, but I had gone through a pretty rough patch at that time, so it just kind of turned into this smoke skull
Yeah,
demon
like
thing.
it looks very much like a lich is sitting down there just getting like shanked by
Yeah,
this guy.
yeah.
It's very, very cool.
Thanks.
Like, I would really love to see what you would do if you saw like a Bharatanatyam dancer or like Indian classical dances who stand in these like incredibly vibrant and dynamic poses. Because
Yeah,
I think you could take something like that and go insane with your eye for color,
yeah,
especially given how like the clothing that they wear is very pop
yeah.
and very like,
Like,
yeah.
that would be so cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, man, I'm like thinking of like 300 things I want you to do for no good reason. Like there's no reason you should just go and paint Bharatanatyam dancers, but you should because it would be sweet. Like, you know what? You need to go back and like do fan art versions of like Kaladesh.
Oh, that would be cool. I
Like,
loved Kaladesh so much.
yeah, you did. It's all swirlies and purples and like
Yeah,
pop arty. It's like exactly your jam. That and like Kamigawa are probably like the two sets that I would associate your art style with.
Kamigawa was another one where I just kind of had to be like, "Come on, like, I'm right here, guys. Like, I've been here all along."
I mean, look, they did touch our buddy Ben and brought him on to do his cool pop art, like
Oh,
his
yeah.
lo-fi lands, which is cool. So
The moment that was announced, I reached out to him and congratulated him because he was the one of the first guests that myself and my friend had on our Commander stream that was very short-lived in 2020, and I just had to, like, share my excitement with him of like, "Oh my god, like, this is so cool, congratulations." Like, that's amazing.
yeah, dude, it feels good to see somebody get uplifted because it just
Yeah,
feels like, oh, there's hope for all of us. And look, hard work does pay off. It's awesome.
exactly. It's like Naruto.
Without the running.
Yeah.
Stupid Naruto run. It's so dumb. I hate Naruto. I mean, I was just too old for Naruto, and
Yeah.
now there's 12,000 episodes, and I'm just too old to catch up. It's
It
like
it
so
is a
much.
lot to take on. A couple years ago, I wanted to rewatch it or kind of, like, finish it off, and I found a Reddit post that tells you exactly what episodes to skip so that you miss all the filler and you just get all the, like, important story stuff, and I just did that.
Smart. And I'm like, you know what? I could just go the next step and not watch it.
Yeah,
It would be just as fine. One thing I've learned that as I get older, I have a lot more respect for we have 8 episodes and we're done. Like, yes, I am here for that. Give me your 8-episode short story or like 5 episodes. That's delightful. Let's do it. Call it a
yeah.
day.
I
Uh,
think if I hadn't discovered it through Toonami as a kid, I'd probably feel exactly the same about it
well, no,
because that's
that's
how
the
I
thing.
feel about One Piece.
Yeah. Oh my god, dude, Cass is trying to get me to watch One Piece, and I'm like, you know what? No. He's like, "I'm at episode 1,000," and I'm like, "That's why I'm not watching One Piece, man. Episode
It's
1,000.
like 10 years
1,000.
later.
Hell no. Are
There's
you kidding
another
me?"
500 episodes, and you just finally got to episode 1,000.
Yeah, no. You know what? When I was a kid, I had time to do that. Nowadays, I'm like, "Oh my god, it has 6 episodes. Oh,
Mhm.
beautiful. Let's go." Or like, watching like I just don't I mean, I loved cartoons and I loved anime. I lived in Japan for God's sakes. I'm a full-blown weeb
Oh,
emeritus. But I'm also like, I am not gonna sit here and watch 1,200 episodes of
yeah.
Legend of Galactic Heroes
Well, what's your
when
favorite anime then?
Macross Plus.
Okay.
4 episodes in and out with the best short story ever told in anime, and one of the greatest soundtracks by Yoko Kanno, and it's also just Macross, so it's got transforming robots in it. One of the one of the true triumphs of the art form. And then, like, I loved Bastard way back when. I loved Lodoss Wars because that's Dragonlance, the anime, but they just changed the names a bit.
Mhm.
Um, I watched like one of my favorite animes ever is Serial Experiments Lane, which was a weird, dark, paranoid, cyberpunkish future about
Hmm.
what does it feel to lose yourself to the internet.
Oh,
And it was done in 2000 before everything changed and the
yeah.
Matrix and everything weird.
Oh my
But it
gosh.
was one of the just truly great like animes. And like I mean, Dragon Balls. I love me Dragon Balls and I love Ronin Warriors and
Oh,
all
Ronin.
of these like
Yes, Ronin Warriors. We geeked out on that on Twitter once.
I
That would be a
love
cool
Ronin Warriors.
secret lair.
Hell yeah, it would, dude. I would have my Rio of Wildfire card all day long. Thank you very much. I loved Ronin Warriors. I love Sentai shows and stuff. But like when I came back from Japan, I was like, the art, nature of the cartoon business in Japan is moving towards harem animes and weird fetishy things and weird like waifu things. And
Mhm.
I am an old man. That's not what I'm here for anymore. Like, Tenchi Muyo was cool when I was 16 and young, but it's not cool when I'm 40. You know?
Yeah.
But dragging that back to magic for a second, you know what I wanna see you do? I wanna see your version of Reckless Fireweaver.
Oh, I
From,
gotta look that one
Kaladesh,
up
the
for a
dude who
sec.
just got, like, the whips of fire going around that does damage whenever artifacts come into play, is maybe one of my favorite cards of all time. It's also was my icon because it looked like me for a while. Uh, but, like, I think your style with
Oh,
the
yeah, that would be
vibrant
cool.
ways your colors whip around would look super sick doing a version of that card.
I could see it.
Like, it would
Yeah.
be hella cool, and I would put it into my treasures deck right now.
That would
Just
be
saying.
great.
Like, I'm just saying that if you were looking for inspiration, that card is sick. That card is hella sick, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
I can definitely imagine some of the cool shapes with, like, all the overlapping
Oh, yeah.
spirals and circles.
Like, it feels exactly I mean, it looks like something that you would have drawn
Yeah.
if you had been forced to work with their color palette instead of yours.
Yeah.
So, what decks are you playing now?
So the Lesha Sliver deck is one. Another one that I've been obsessed with lately is Zabaz the Glimmer Wasp. I
What?
love modular.
Wait, what? Really?
Yes, I love modular so much. I tried for the longest
Okay, okay,
time
okay.
to
Why
make
didn't
it.
you start with it? Because I need to know because that stupid card has like when I saw that come out in Modern Horizons 1, Modern Horizons 2, what was it?
I forget which
Uh
one
it,
it was.
yeah, but it's like the Boros bug thing.
Yeah, it's hardened scales
Yeah,
but modular.
Modern Horizons 2, Zabaz the Glimmer Wasp for 1, and it's got like modular 1, and it does like doubles your modular thing, but it also lets you destroy target artifact you control, aka blow up the things got modular so you can move counters around. And then you could pay a white to give it flying because this wasp apparently doesn't have wings. What the hell? This is like I remember when this card came out and I'm like, this card was made for somebody. I don't know who that
It's
person is.
me.
I don't think that person exists, but obviously Watsy does. So, okay, sell me on this because what the hell are you talking about? How do you even are there even enough modular cards to make this deck?
There are quite a few modular cards, and then there's some other artifact creatures that just care about +1 counters. Like there's Mindless Automaton that cares about counters.
Mm,
But a lot of the modular stuff from the first Mirrodin set or block
like
are great in it. Um, and then it just has a lot of artifact synergies in it. But my favorite thing about the deck is like single target removal doesn't really work on the deck very well because the
Sure
counters just
doesn't.
move around. And I always try to have 2 modular creatures out at the same time so I can keep just passing the counters along. And I've had games where I end up with a Zabaz that's like 25-25 because
That's so
nobody's
stupid.
successfully completely wiped the board.
That's so dumb. Yeah, I guess that makes sense because then you can just go in and Voltron and win by commander damage.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, I guess you get to use, like, your Arcbound Ravagers and friends. But it's so weird. There's, like, 20 something modular cards. It's like that card is so bizarre. I can't believe I found the one person in the world who actually has this deck.
For a minute, I had 2 modular decks because I was trying so hard to make a 3 or 4 color modular deck because I wanted Zabaz in it, but I wanted Rayhan as well. And I couldn't, like, of course, I can't partner those 2, so I was trying to figure out a way to make the deck with both of them in it. And for a while that I had Rayhan and I tried Sakashima of 1,000 Faces,
Yeah,
and that
Rayhan
was
for
busted.
Rayhan is the green black partner commander that lets you keep counters and move them around a bit.
Yeah.
Um, cool card.
Yeah.
Very cool card.
That plus Sakashima was just busted because your your modular triggers basically tripled when you'd
Oh
have
my
a creature
god.
die.
Yeah, so
And
whenever Rayhan says whenever a creature you control dies, if it had one or more 1/1 counters on it, you can put that many 1/1 counters on target creature. If a modular creature dies, obviously, you get the one off of it, and then you get
mhm,
the extra one from Rayhan, and then probably one more from hardened scales that you got sitting around, and then one more from Sakashima, and suddenly that 1/1 is now like a 4/4 or a 5/5 or something stupid.
yeah. And that deck, it kind of won the same way every time, so I ended up scrapping it.
It always makes me sad when that happens.
Yeah, it was always get Fathom Mage out, have something with a bunch of tokens, kill it, move like using Rayhan's ability, move the counters from that thing to Fathom Mage, draw a bunch of cards, put the other
Ugh,
counters on an artifact with modular, and then draw into eventually Walking Ballista.
fair. I mean, it sounds fun one time.
Oh, it was definitely fun a couple of times, but once I figured out how the deck worked, it lost its fun.
That happened to me a lot. Like, I will build a deck that I'm like, "Oh, this is really cool. I'm gonna do this idea. I've got this little combo chain planned out." But then it does it, and I'm like, "Oh, that was easy.
Yeah,
And this is gonna do the same thing every time, and now it's not fun anymore."
yeah.
Like, I had an elf ball deck, and it was just like it had the same thing. It was like, "Look, I know exactly how the plan of this deck is gonna work every single time."
Mhm. Yeah, with
Because like, someone like me who plays Commander for Chaos, I need every draw I'm playing to be like, "I don't know how to deal with this hand because it's weird and doesn't make any sense to me."
yeah.
Like, I don't know. That's why I love my Brea deck because it's just, "Oh, whoops, I was playing it the other day, and somebody on the other side of the table had to point out to me that I had the win because I didn't realize it because there were, like, 2 cards on there that I never
Oh
played
my
together,
gosh.
and they're like, "These 2 cards synergize, and if you do this, I believe you have infinite tokens or you're doing infinite damage or mana or something." And I'm like, "Oh, oh, well,
Yeah,
how about that?
that's a great.
I win?" And the other 2 players are like, "Well, can I have my turn first before it comes back to you?" I'm like, "Oh, sure, go ahead and stop me." And they're like, "Well, we can't stop you." And I'm like, "Oh, well, good game."
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That that deck I only pull out now for, like, special occasions because it is exactly just not very. I mean, it's good in very high level situations, but otherwise,
Mhm.
yeah, it's boring. Oh, man. Okay,
That
so we got a couple minutes left. Tell me about your Kickstarter and tell the kids about it.
Yeah, so the Kickstarter is for a hoodie and a long sleeve shirt. I'm taking inspiration from my days working at Reebok and combining it with my own personal artwork and releasing, first line of apparel if this does well. And so far it is. I plan on doing more in the future, but fashion and colors are a passion of mine, and it's really hard to find good colorful clothing out there. And that was like my favorite thing about Gen Con was people would come up wearing bright colors and I'd be like, don't you hate how hard it is to find bright colored clothing? And they'd be like, yeah, it's so hard. And I'd be like, great, well, I have a Kickstarter coming up for colorful clothing. And they'd be like, oh my god, like this is perfect. And then they would geek out on it. And so that's why I'm doing this, because it's something that I care about, that I'm passionate about, and there are other people out there that also feel the same way. And if I can offer them, a cool piece of clothing that they're gonna wear and that's gonna become their signature, like Saturday morning cartoon character outfit, I'm happy to be that person.
I love that you had to put a caption in there. You're like, "I swear I didn't just buy any of this stuff for the photo shoot. My shoes are actually bright pink."
Yeah.
And, like, pink like, you have pink and orange shoes and, like, pants that are, like, salmon purple, and I'm like, What the hell is" I like you, man. Your
Thanks.
taste is very much exactly what I wish mine was, which is part of why I like the fact that, like, my t-shirt is, like, bright yellow, which is
Mhm.
very much not a gamer color. Um, but
I
yeah,
love your shirt design. Like,
it's so cool.
it's
It makes me
great.
so happy. It makes me so happy. Um, but man, it's been great to talk to you. This has been lovely, and I genuinely, honest to God, love your artwork. I really, really do.
Thank you.
I want to see you do more magic stuff so I can share it to more people. I want you to be successful so that Watsy looks at you and says, "Hey, we should let this guy draw dragons for us." And then,
One day. One
yeah,
day.
one day, man, because like, and I really want to get that playmat, damn it. But anyways, dude, thank you so much. And if people wanted to find you or find your Kickstarter, which as of this recording should be like about a week more, and for those of you listening to it afterwards, I'm sorry. But yeah, so tell the people where they can find you.
So you can find me at Schmandrew Art, pretty much any social media channel. And then my website is schmandrewart.com. If you're looking for the Kickstarter, you can search Schmandrew Art on
You should spell
Kickstarter and
that at
find
least
it.
one time.
It is SCHM Andrew Art. So
Yes.
it's like a little schmear at the front and then Andrew Art.
Sweet. And as always, my friends, you could find me by going to Gearbury Gears on Twitter. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff Inc. on Tuesdays, or at YouTube on Thursdays. Thank you, EK. And remember, my friends, it is not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.